Another one. We've nearly reached the end of all the sort of conferences and events that have been held by different developers and different companies to showcase what's been happening in the games industry and what's going to be happening in the games industry. But this time we're going to be going over the Future Games Show. It was hosted by Laura Bailey and Matt Mercer. I've never heard of this show, but this is like their summer showcase. It looks like they've got another one coming up in the autumn as well. So we'll have to see what gets announced there. But I'm going into this with no sort of preconceptions of what to expect. I don't know if there's going to be hardware reveals. I don't know if it's going to be like software. I mean, I know now I watched it, but before I didn't know there was going to be hardware or anything like that. What I did notice though was there's a lot of PC game focused releases in here. So do just bear that in mind when you look at some of these titles. If you think, oh, that is actually a little bit cool, like that's up my street, just double check it's coming to the platform that you actually have. Without further ado, whatever that is, let's get into it. The first game that we saw was The Expanse: Osiris Reborn, which is apparently based on a TV show. I say apparently because I've never seen the TV show itself, but it's a third-person RPG game based in space, lots of action, lots of shooting, lots of aliens, I imagine. With a third-person fantasy game next, which was Echoes of the End. And it looks like you're going to be dealing with a lot of like wizards and undead monsters, so if that's your bag, congratulations. Again though, another world premiere. I'm just going to say it now. I'm going to stop like referring to these world premieres because I'll do you the justice that these presentations don't and just say pretty much all of these were world premieres. And if they weren't, then I didn't know. It really got on my nerves that every single time a world premiere happened, it was broken up with the screen showing the words world premiere, both the host then telling me it was a world premiere as well. Cool, like just show me the trailer, just show me what it is. I don't hype it up more than it actually is. A game I won't be touching was next, and it's a horror game. Well, a psychological horror game called Whispers in the Fog, which looks like you're lost in the woods and you could hear like this voice singing to you. That creeped me out. The whole idea of like something being in the woods and you won't be able to see it, but you can hear it, scares the hell out of me. I mean, I grew up next to like some woods, so it was always a thing like you didn't go out at night in the woods on your own because you could always hear stuff in there, or there was the creepy old guy that lived in the house at the end of the woods. We were all convinced that he was going to eat us when we were kids. We've all had that, right? We had another look at Seven Deadly Sins Origin, which is an anime game based on an anime which I've never watched. The finals then got its Season 7 update announcement. I haven't played the finals for so long. I think I played it when it first came out. Didn't really gel with the whole sort of mechanics that they were using in there. If it is a game that you enjoy playing with your friends, you've got another season of content coming your way. But for me, yeah, I don't know what it was, but everything that I play with online has to compete with Warzone for me because it's where me and a lot of my friends, I like to relax. I say relax, it's stressful as hell. But yeah, it's one of those things where I couldn't get into it. But if you could, then here you go. Now. This is a game that I want. Hurdling, where you're herding stuff. It looks so relaxing. It looks so peaceful, so calming. I want this game. I need this game. It looks so good. I don't know much more about it other than what we see in this trailer. There's a demo on Steam right now for it. It is definitely something that I want to invest some time into because it does look like it'll take away a lot of the stresses of day-to-day life. We've all heard of sleeping with your eyes open. Well, Sleep Awake is the next game. And it looks like it's going to be like a psychological thriller game with Blumhouse games behind it. If you know who Blumhouse are, they do a lot of horror films as well. This is going to be one of those games which is going to creep me out. So from time to time, I will suffer from sleep paralysis. There has been one occasion where my eyes were open during it, and it was a horrific experience. I saw the Hat Man, that's not a lie. He came into my room, walked around my bed, and it freaked me out. And sleep paralysis is no joke. It's not a fun thing if you do suffer with it. I don't get it that frequently, but when I do get it, it is scary. This game just gave me that anxiety that sleep paralysis gives me. It's gonna be something I'm probably gonna be missing out on. My next note isn't about a game, it's about the show itself. And what I will say is every single trailer so far has been broken up by the two hosts talking about stuff. Now, I fully get that hosts have to talk about games and the game show itself, but it feels a little bit over the top. It kind of gave me big Saturday morning TV vibes with the way that they were talking. I know they're both eccentric characters, they both do a lot in the games industry, they do a lot with voice acting, and they are both masters of their craft, and there's no doubt there. But just a few days ago, we had Summer Game Fest, and now we've got this, and there's a distinct difference in the two. Yes, this one's in a studio, whereas Summer Game Fest is in front of a live audience, but it just felt a little bit weird. Wasn't a fan of the vibe that this show gave off. Not like an unsettling way, it just did not gel with me. It was grinding against me every time that there was a gap. We then got a look at Eric's Home, which is an isometric puzzle game with 3 characters that you change between to solve the puzzles. It's based in early 1900s. Scandinavia. It's a really interesting concept. I like the idea of puzzle games where you switch between characters who've got their own sort of individual takes on how to solve stuff and their own skill basis. So it looks pretty interesting, and I do like the aesthetic. I was recently in Sweden myself, so it's a pretty cool place, I will definitely say that. We then got to look at the cel-shaded world of the Explorator, which is like a first-person shooter game with lots of like insects and bugs in it. Constance was next, which is a Metroidvania game where you use like a paintbrush to deal with your enemies. But like a really interesting concept, really fun. I'm a fan of Metroidvania style games as well, and it looks like everyone is trying to fill that gap that Silksong has kind of left in the industry right now. If you like Metroidvania games, it looks like it could be up your street. At the moment, it looks like it's only coming to PC though, sadly, so hopefully they do get a console release for it in the future. A Diablo-esque RPG was up next. Set in ancient Greece, it was Titan Quest 2. It's a sequel to the first Titan Quest game, hence the number 2. It features some new monsters that they've made up just for this game, some from ancient Greek mythology and some from their previous titles as well. We had a follow-up to a puzzle game from 2020 then, called Call of the Elder Gods, and it's a Lovecraftian horror puzzle game. I don't mean horror as in like scary. If you know what Lovecraftian horror is, then you understand what I mean. If you don't, it's Cthulhu and that whole ethos. Now I thought we'd seen this game before, but we hadn't. It's just another Capture the Flag game, and it's called Ascendant, and it describes itself as Capture the Flag on crack. Lost Items, Veil of the Witch, and I hope I pronounced that game title right, is a roguelike tactical RPG game with a focus on speed and brutality. It's got like a medieval setting to it as well. There's monsters, cultists, zombies, and each character's got their own unique kit, and what I did like about this was it looks as though if you level up during battle, you learn new skills in that fight itself. You haven't got to wait till after, which is quite a nice take on the RPG side of it. Popucom was next, and it gave me big Split Fiction vibes, but with more characters. And one of the cool things was, instead of just doing like puzzles and like opening doors for each other, you actually played games. I'm not sure how that will work in the game itself, but it was like a Tetris-like game that one was playing to solve stuff. It looks pretty interesting, it's pretty cool, especially if you've got like a group of 4 friends to play with. This could be a good laugh. Firefighter Simulator Ignite then came on. Definitely a firefighter sim, definitely looks a little bit weird. And I don't mean weird like the graphical style, I just mean that it doesn't look like it performs too well. The Bureau of Fantastical and Arcane Affairs. I never thought the words "I want to be an inspector" would come out my mouth. However, this game looks like a proper good laugh. It looks as though you play as a bureaucratic inspector for the Ministry of Fantastical and Arcane Affairs, and you go around and you inspect different aspects of these sort of fantasy stories. So you inspect the bosses, you inspect the dungeons, you inspect the heroes, you make sure everything's up to code. It looks like it could be a proper good laugh and relaxing as well. Definitely something I want to learn more about and definitely something I want to try out. WTF? No, it's not what you think it means. It's Waifu Tactical Force. It looks as though it's a hero shooter where you play as anime girls who are shooting, and you have base building mechanics as well. It looks like it's trying to achieve a lot, and it looks like something that I'm going to completely pass on, not because of the aesthetic, just because of the gameplay style. It looks like it's going to be too much. And what I mean by that is sometimes games try and do too much and they end up being a jack of all trades, master of none in that respect. So not for me, but if it is up your street, and I mean gameplay wise up your street, you should check it out. But again, there were more cat girls, and I did not ask for this in the trailer, okay? We got another look at the Hirogami game, which is coming out, which looks really good. The art style is always going to look incredible to me, the way that the paper sort of falls between each different character shape and the way that you can transform and you learn new skills. Like, yeah, this looks like a really fun game. Eve Frontier was next. I've never played Eve. I never want to play Eve. I don't know much more about it other than that. Apparently this is like a sandbox horror game based in sort of the Eve engine, and users will generate assets for it. Yeah, it's not for me, it's not my bag. Formula Legends was then shown off, and it's got like a really interesting art style for a formula racing game. So instead of being like hyper realistic, it's quite cartoony, which is an interesting way of doing these games, because normally Formula 1 based games are usually quite, authentic in that way. We then had a sizzle reel pop up with Catastrophe, which is like an action roguelike game. Phase Zero, which is a survival horror with a fixed camera angle and pre-rendered backgrounds, which is quite a nice aesthetic. Bloodgrounds, strategic turn-based battles, which looks very gruesome. And then an interesting one called How to Escape Lost Submarine, where it uses a copy of the game and a mobile companion to help you get through. It's a very different concept, and it's something that looks quite interesting. We then got a look at a late 18th century based naval game called Ahoy. We saw no gameplay for it, and we got a link to a Kickstarter project. All I will say is proceed with caution with anything that is on Kickstarter. Flickshot Rogues was then shown, turn-based strategy roguelike with sort of flick characters into battle. Underpar Golf Architect, which is essentially theme park but for golf. And Ascend to Zero, which is like a hack and slash roguelike game, but also you can freeze time and the combat looks a little bit more interesting in it. Do you like animals? Do you like pets? Most people do. Now, take your pet, put it in a mech. and that's Animal Kind. It looks really cool, really interesting. It's only coming to Steam at the moment, but I really hope it comes to consoles. It kind of gives me big, like, Animal Crossing vibes, but with a bit more of a tongue-in-cheek aspect to it. So yeah, I'm a fan of this. It looks really relaxing and really cute. Don't Wake the Beast was then shown off. A game which you have to steal from big beasts, but the more that you steal, the slower you go, the more sound you make. A weird puzzle concept. I quite like it though. We'll have to wait and see more of it though. Have you ever wanted to start a cult? Well, Worship lets you do that. Worship's a cultist simulator where you create a cult and you basically grow it. It gave big Pikmin vibes as well to a certain extent. I'm not saying Olimar is a cult creator or anything like that, but you get the vibe. Scum then showed off their latest trailer, which housed a bunch of the negative reviews that they've received on Steam for it. It's not a game that I want to pick up. It's not something that looks like it's going to be interesting to me whatsoever. Deathground was then up, which is essentially survival horror and survival shooter, but against dinosaurs. And every dinosaur's got its own special ability, which is even more terrifying. Hell is Us was next, and that was like a really weird third-person action game. Combat looks weird, but in an interesting way, and all the enemies are sort of manifestations of human emotions and human feelings, so how this plays out we'll have to see, but it looked like it was really heavy on the story. We were then shown pre-alpha footage of Fading Echo, which looks freaking cool. You turn into a blob to move around, kind of like Splatoon style, but it's a third-person action game, or adventure game I should say, with some action elements built into it, with puzzle solving as well. Like, yeah, that looks like a really fun concept, so put my name down for that one. A JRPG called Sacrifier was up next. As you move, time moves as well, so it looks as though you've got to really strategize your battles. Truxton Extreme was next, and it's a bullet hell game, and it looks really intense. If you're a fan of bullet hell and shoot 'em up games, this is going to be right up your street. Gave me big Ikaruga vibes. Link's Banner of the Spark was next. Gave me Bionic Commando-esque sort of feel with how his arm was like bionic. I don't think it's his wife though, which is, you know, obviously a story for another time. But yeah, the gameplay was really fun. The way that the cutscenes are a different style to the gameplay as well. So the gameplay looks all like 3D, the cutscenes are all 2D. Really interesting how it's been done. I'm intrigued to learn more about it. It looks like it could be a good bit of fun though. We then got another Kickstarter project announced for the Joe and Matt collection. I didn't really play these games when I was younger. I think if I'd been a teenager when these were out, it would have been a different story. I've got no nostalgia for these, but again, it's a Kickstarter project, so just proceed with caution. And what I mean by that is just do your research first. Don't go investing your money and wasting it on something that isn't actually going to come to fruition, and just make sure you look after yourself on there. Directive 8020 was next, which is a horror game set in space with shapeshifters. Nope, not playing that. It's a horror game. The space side doesn't really bother me, but the horror game side does. No, not a fan of that. Especially with shapeshifting stuff. No. What was really cool though is they had like a narrative style to it, which you could then go back and look at your previous choices to change them, and they were called turning points. So essentially, if you made a choice that then changed the entire direction of the plot, you could go back and change your answer there to go down a different route and see how that one would have worked out. We had another look at Kane, which is the survival climber game, which I've already mentioned previously, but it's a game that I want to sink some more time into. The demo is available now. It's really interesting, but it is kind of like co-op, but uphill. We had two quality games shown off then. First one was like a old Resident Evil style game, which had pre-rendered backgrounds, fixed sort of camera angles. I'm not sure if it was tank controls or not, but the pixelated art style as well. Yeah, horror game, survival, based in that sort of aesthetic. It might be one I check out because it doesn't look too realistic to scare me, so it's fine. So that first one was called Ground Zero, and the second one that we got to look at was called Hark the Ghoul, which is like a first-person adventure game. Gave me like Skyrim-y vibes, but obviously not Skyrim. So yeah, if you think these games up your street, then you might want to check them out. Hella was then up. Another game which looks cute as heck. Oh, cute as Hella, you could say. I'm sorry. You play as mice and you adventure across the world. I'm cool with this. It looks super fun, super chill. Not really sure what the gameplay mechanic's going to be like yet for it, but I am in. It looks so good. Luto was then up, which is like a horror thriller game. And the whole idea of it is, do you trust what you see and what you hear? I don't like the idea of the game messing with me more than it already would. I'm already going to be scared going into something like this, and if it's going to be telling me that what I'm seeing isn't real, it's another big note for me, just because I'm a big wimp. But if you are a big horror fan and you like being scared and spooked and tricked, then this game could be for you. Reach was then shown, which is a VR title, which was pretty nice to see in this sort of lineup. It gave me big like Mirror's Edge vibes with a lot of parkour as well in it. Only concern that I have for a game like this is that the motion sickness is probably going to be real for a lot of people. Depressed Duck Detective. The Ghost of Glamping was then shown. The art style is really cool. It looks like it's like a puzzle detective style game. So yeah, if it looks like it's up your street, the humor looks quite interesting as well and quite funny and a little bit dark. I mean, the whole game's about being a depressed duck, so I imagine it has got quite a a unique twist to humour. We then got the spiritual successor to Patapon called Ratatan. These names are just great. If you're used to sort of the rhythm-based gameplay of Patapon, you know exactly what to expect here, but it's a rhythm-based game with adventuring, platforming and fighting monsters. A Poirot game was then shown off, and it was Agatha Christie's Death in the Nile. And it's interesting because it's got a second detective this time, so I'm not sure how it's going to differ from the original story and how the original one went, but we'll have to wait and see. House Flipper 2 Scooby-Doo was then shown off. I'm not sure if the rhyme was intentional there or not. I've never played a House Flipper game. This one's got a Scooby-Doo aesthetic, and I grew up watching Scooby-Doo, so this could be one for you if you do like more sort of relaxing games like that. I hope it's a relaxing game. I could be completely wrong here, but it looks a little bit interesting. Definitely one to wait for a bit more information on, unless you're a big House Flipper fan. So again, we have another look at Mafia the Old Country, and it was a really interesting scene that they showed in this. It was like the creation of the Mafia and being brought in for the first time, and even watching it, I felt unsettled in a good way. So yeah, I am quite excited for this game now. The developers of Tenant of the Spark then took the screen, and it's a brawler game, but based across 3 different timelines, and you sort of interchange between the 3 sort of different characters. So you could do a punch with one, a kick with another, and it looked really weird. The developer didn't really sit right with me when they were like talking. We'll have to wait and see. It's definitely an interesting concept, and I'm all for people pushing the boundaries of what these games are about. We then got to look at a Lovecraftian-based horror shooter game called Chrysal Theatre of Idols. The unique concept here is that it uses blood as ammunition. If you made it this far in the video and also see any of my previous ones, you know that I do not like horror games, but this one could be something I check out. I love the concept of using the blood as ammo, so I'll be really intrigued to know how this works out as a sort of gameplay mechanic. We then got a really weird game to close out the show called Ritual Tides. Didn't really give much away about what it's about. I don't know if there's more hype to this game than I should be aware of, but yeah, just a bit weird. We didn't really see much of it. All we know it's like a Lovecraftian vibe again with it. I mean, PC gaming and Lovecraftian horror kind of goes hand in hand. I don't know why. Didn't really strike me as something big to close the show out with. So that was the Future Games Show Summer Showcase. It's a tongue twister name there as well. Overall, it was a bit meh. I'm honest. It wasn't really what I expected, but I didn't really know what to expect, you know what I mean? I'd never watched this show before, I'd never heard of the show before. I just saw that it had come on at the same time as sort of everything else was going on, so I wanted to check it out and make sure I got some coverage in for it. But yeah, it looked really PC focused, obviously from the outset, and I should have probably expected the titles to be a bit more out there. It just didn't really give me that hype that I'd get. Like, I'm a big fan of PC games, I grew up playing PC games. But for me, it just was not enough there to get me excited. And the format of the show just kind of really got to me as well. Not much hype built up for it. There's definitely a few games that look really cute and really interesting, but overall, this show is probably the weakest one so far. And you lose more points again for having world premiere signs to separate everything, and the inclusion of catgirls.